ಕೇಳಿದ್ದೀವಿ. ಉಪನಿಷತ್ ಅಂದರೆ ಉಪ ನೀ ಅದಾದಮೇಲೆ ಷಡ್ ಅಂದರೆ ಅದೇ ಆದಮೇಲೆ. ಆದರೆ ಅದರ ಅರ್ಥ ಏನು? ವಾಟ್ ಈಸ್ ದ ಮೀನಿಂಗ್ ಆಫ್ ದಟ್ ಷಡ್ ಧಾತು? 3 meanings I told. Himsa, Gati and Avasadana. Himsa means destruction. Gati means movement or reaching a destination. And Avasadana means loosening of the knots. Loosening. So, are you experiencing these 3 happening within you? At least Salpam. So, your enthusiasm to learn this knowledge should be very great. We are so enthusiastic about so many things in the world. About a new friend, about a new place, about a new movie, about a new book, about a new games or sports. We are so enthusiastic. We want to know about everybody else, everything else. First time we are getting to know about ourselves. How much more enthusiasm should you show in this path, on this path? Because this is about you. This Upanishads is not about a God sitting in high heaven. That is a religion. Religion is about a God who sits above somewhere up, and from there he metes out punishments and rewards to people who do bad and good in life. Religion is not what we are talking here. We are not talking Hindu religion over here, though it's a common myth that Upanishads only belong to Hindu religion. No. Upanishad is our Vedic tradition. It's our spiritual tradition. And it is the basic texts of Sanātana Dharma. You may ask, is Sanātana Dharma not Hindu religion? No. Is Hindu religion Sanātana Dharma? Yes. So Sanātana Dharma is the universal religion. Its approach is global, universal. It encompasses all things within itself. Whereas Hinduism is like a subset of the universal set. Those who have studied Venn diagrams and sets. So if Sanātana Dharma is considered as the universal set, Hindu religion is a subset. If Sanātana Dharma is Karnataka, Hindu religion is like Chikkabalapura. It's within Karnataka. It has its own weather, it has its own water, it has its own population and things like that. But Sanātana Dharma is far wider. So how do we learn about Sanātana Dharma? What are the texts? What are the things that we should learn so that we understand Sanātana Dharma? The answer is you must read Upanishads. The Upanishads are only one part of the entire Vedic scriptures, which have 4 parts. The first one is all the mantras that have been put together. These are all coming together of the mantras that rishis have, Om Namo Shivaya, or even mantras from Rudram or Narayana Suktam, Ganapati Atharva Shirsham, Durga Suktam, Meda Suktam, everything that you have learned so far. All these are coming together. That is one part. There are samhitas. They are all collection of mantras, not beyond that. And then you have Brahmanas. Brahmanas are the various explanations of these mantras. How do you go about performing a ritual along with this mantra? For simple example, if you think you want to worship Ganesha, obviously you are not going to put a Shivalingam there and worship. So there is a god, a deity that goes with a mantra. Gam Ganapataye Namaha means it's for Ganapati. His Moola mantra is Gam. And how is Ganapati? The description is there. Lambodaram, Raktavarnas, Chaturbhujam, Pasha Ankushahastam, Mushakadvajam, Vakratundam, all these descriptions of that god is there. Alongside also how to worship that god also is mentioned in these scriptures. You have to offer, if you want to Ganapati, you can't offer Bilva Patras. Ganapati would not like it. You have to offer Modakas. Because Modaka is that which is favorite of Ganapati. So we make, and then you offer some Kusha grass or Darbha grass you offer to Ganapati. That is his favorite. When you go and worship Shiva, he is Abhisheka Priya. Ganapati is Bhojana Priya, Modaka Priya. Whereas Shiva is Abhisheka Priya. And there is a particular way of performing Rudra Yajnam or Rudra Homa or Rudra Puja, Abhishekas. You have noticed some of this during our Rudra Homas that we perform every year. So there is a methodology to perform that. And then we perform so many other Yajna Yagas, be it for Lakshmi, Kubera, or be it for health to Dhanvantari, Ashlesha Bali. Then various Navaratri Homas, in that we perform Durga Homa. All these kinds of things we perform. And each has its own mantras, because by now you have performed quite a few homas and yajnas in your own hostels, the Thursday homas. This is all samhitas and brahmanas. Then comes the aranyakas. Aranya means forest. So what do we do in forest? Most of the people earlier times lived in forests. And they meditated on things. Because in forest there is not much to do. If you're living in a society, you have a family, you do Agnihotra, you chant mantras, you seek various blessings from various gods. Then you go into the forest in a Vanaprastha ashrama. Or those rishis who are running a Gurukula in a forest. Now they came up with the methodology of Upasana. Upasana means you should be able to meditate on that deity. It's not just about doing mantrodcharana and offering ahuti and doing abhishekas and things like that. There is a bigger idea of, or a deeper idea of meditating on the name and the form of the deity. So when you think of Ganapati, you think of the form of Ganapati. Meditate. But it also says in Ganapati Adharva Shirsham, Sa Brahma, Sa Vishnu, Sa Rudra, Indra, Agni, Vayu, everything you only are. In fact, you are Brahman himself. So this is the meditation part of those mantras. So it's not that they have been written separately, this section is about Vedanta, that section. It's a mix and match of the things. But you, as rishis, they would know these mantras are basically Samhita mantras, these mantras are only Brahmana mantras, these mantras are Aranyaka mantras, and these mantras are Upanishadic mantras. So within the collection of the Vedic scriptures, all these four are there. The Upanishads are the philosophy part of it. The third part is meditation, or Upasana Kanda we call it. Upasana means meditating, thinking. And the fourth aspect is Vedanta, which is the philosophy. The deeper, subtler philosophy of Vedas is Vedanta. Veda Anta, at the end of the Vedas you may think, no, it's not. It does not mean the end of the book, the last chapter, no. It only means this is the ultimate. Beyond that there is nothing more to know. You can start with performing rituals, asking for things that you need for your daily life and living. From there you perform it correctly, don't make a mistake, don't offer wrong things to wrong gods. Then from there you further go to meditating on the higher reality of God. It's not just about God is not an ATM machine. Put a card, put pin, and then you get money. God is more than that. God is ATM, anytime mukti. Anytime you ask God for mukti, He is ready to give, provided you have some balance with you. If you don't have any balance of all these things, Shama, Arjava, Daya, Tosha, Satyam, Piyusha, Vadbhaja, then He cannot give mukti to you. That is what Janaka asked, Katham mukti bhavishyati? How can I attain mukti? And the Ashtavakra said, first to become eligible by performing all these things, Shama, Arjava, Daya, Tosha, Satyam. Then you will become eligible, then I can give you. So God is to be asked much higher things, not just the day-to-day things. That's why Arti, Artharti, Jignasu, Jnani, four kinds of people are there. And all the four find their some relevance to their ways in the Vedas. The Arti problem, some Arthana problem means some health problem. Okay, you perform some Navagraha Homa, or you perform some Ayusha Homa, you perform some Ashlesha Bali, something they will tell you. You do this. Mrityunjaya Homa for a long life, health and things like that. And people perform all that. And they perform according to the mantras that has to be chanted correctly, and accordingly they will do the right kind of rituals in the right methodology. When you see the elaborate arrangements they make for the Homa, during Navaratri you will get an idea. For one Homa he'll make a different chakra, whole night that Pujari will work, Purohita. Beautiful formations he'll come up with. And next morning they'll show me, and I'll be so impressed because so geometric, so beautiful. And then each of the Homa requires its own samagri. What needs to be offered, how it needs to be offered. So it's a whole methodology. So Arti, Arthatis basically are those. Artis are who? Physical problem, mental problem, health problem, some legal problem, social problem, some problem. So they perform yajnas, homas according to that. Then comes artharthis, who are only desiring for wealth, progeny, prosperity, good name, success in business, in life. These are the ideas of these artharthis. And also they are like heaven also. If after this world we should go to a good heaven, as you have heard about from Vajashrava, who was trying this. So they have their own set of homas. Most popular is Lakshmi Kubera Homa. Pray to Lakshmi and Kubera and they will fill your bank accounts. And all other kinds of homas are there. Then from there you rise, all physical problems are over, all general whatever is required for life, and that is there with us. Then you start thinking, is this all life is about? Then jignasa starts. Is there something more to life? Because till your stomach is empty, till you have a back problem, head problem, this problem, you can't think of God. First these problems have to be solved. And therefore God does solve these problems, provided you rise above these at some point in time and say, enough is enough. Now I must ask God for the higher things that God has come to give. How long will I fool around with these things, like children playing around with these things? When will I grow up spiritually? So they grow up after some time. Some grow up in the very same birth. Some take many, many births to grow up. So time on this physical earth is not the timeline that applies to spiritual development. See, some plants grow just like that. The grass, today you cut, tomorrow it's back. Bamboo, you sow today, after 5 years it will grow. It will stay under the earth. So each person has their own rate of growth based on their samskaras, vasanas, their purvajanma prarabdhas and their sangat. The company that keep is very, very important. Company is the biggest influencer in our growth. Good company helps grow very fast. Bad company grows very, very slow. So methodology is there for growth, spiritual growth. So when people finish their artharthi problems, and as I said, everybody has their own limit of saturation. Some people are never satisfied how much ever we give them. Some people are very happy with little. And also there can be one attitude when after blessing everything, they have $1 billion business, but they're always eyeing the next $1 billion business next door. How can I buy that business? And they're never satisfied. Like the Russian man who keeps walking. You know the story of Russian man? Never satisfied. It's a Tolstoy story is there. You can read it for yourself. I don't know the verbatim, but the essence is this. In one particular Russian village, a man lived who had a little piece of land, and whatever farming he could do, he did. A very little earning he could get. With that, he had saved up some money. One day he heard that in a neighboring village, the tribal chief has announced that anybody can get as much land in their village for 1,000 rubles. The condition is that at sunrise, the person should start walking. And by sunset, whatever he has covered by walk, all that land will become his. Somebody gives this offer, it looks amazing. So he thought it's a very wonderful offer. I don't know, this tribal chief has gone mad or something. He's just giving away lands. Let me go. So he sells his own land, collects 1,000 rubles, and goes to the neighboring land and tells the chief, I'm here to walk tomorrow and acquire as much land. And this man goes there, and the tribal chief says, all right, we all will be there at sunrise on this particular mound, and from there you can start walking. So he equips himself with some water, some food, boots and clothes and all that, and then he's ready to walk all day. Next morning, everybody gathers, they sit on that particular mound and watch him walk, and he takes off. All the best, goes off. Walks and walks and walks for a long time, only barren lands he sees. And after some time, it's already coming to noon, he's getting tired, sun is hot, and he's sweating, and he's hungry also. And then he sees, after that part, there is beautiful lake is there. And he says, if I cover this lake, it will be useful. I can turn this barren land into a fertile land. So let me cover the lake so that it becomes mine. So he starts walking. But when he tries to eat, he feels, if I eat, I'll sleep. Therefore, he throws his food, keeps water alone, and walks. After some time, he's getting tired. Just when he's about to cover the lake, he feels, let me drink some water. But then he sees water will again, I cannot carry this water. So he drinks water and throws the water bottle also, because it's a burden now. After some more distance, he sees beautiful forest is there. lot of wood. He says, I'll need all this wood to build my house and all the things, the fence and stuff like that. Therefore, let me cover this wood also. Already it's getting closer to the evening. He throws his clothes. He says, these are all a burden. I'm getting tired. Throws his shoes, clothes, water, food, everything. And running, trying to cover the forest. As he covers the forest, the sun is almost coming to going to set. So he rushes, but he's not able to breathe. He's hungry, he's thirsty, he's tired. Drags himself. Somehow he's trying to reach, and he sees the sun is setting. He's going to lose all this land and the 1,000 rubles along with it. But there he sees the people are still waving at him from the mound, because they were at a higher mound, so they could still see the sun at the horizon. And so he drags himself, somehow manages, rushes, and finally he reaches the mound. But just as he's about to reach the mound, the sun sets. And out of fatigue, he dies. And the tribal man says, let us donate him a 6 feet land so that we can bury him. For he has no land left. And he tells, I've never lost 1,000 rubles in this game. The tribal chief says, man's greed is like that. He's never satisfied with whatever is given. So there are people like that also. Ultimately, they will lose even their peace of mind, their health, their wealth, their everything, relationships, for the sake of that little extra in life. And that extra also won't come, and whatever they have also will go. So man's greed has no end. That is why Mahatma Gandhi said, there is enough and more for every man's need, but not even one man's greed. So artharthis are like that. The limit is to be drawn. Where do I draw the limit? Beyond that I should not. Every time there is a temptation to make that 9900, 100, 200, 200, 1000, it is always there. So therefore, Nachiketa has observed all these things. And after observing, he has come to conclusion, this artharthi business I don't want to get into. My father is like that, others are like that. But I have realized that the jignasa came in him. I must think of what is the ultimate end to all this. People are born, people die, they go to heaven, they again return, they go to hell, they return back. Is there an end to it? And that is how jignasu he became. Curious, because he had overcome, or he had transcended. He had crossed over the lower ideas of solutions to physical, mental problems or comfort and pleasures of life. He had overcome these ideas already in his life. And now he is in the third stage of jignasa. That is where a lot of this jignasa is settled by the Aranyaka portion of the Vedas, where they give a lot of answers to you. However, a jnani will not be satisfied with that. The one who really wants the jnana, he wants to go beyond just meditating on gods and wants to know the absolute truth. And therefore the Vedanta, it's for those who have already crossed these three stages. You children will say, Swami, we have not even started on this journey. We're just starting our life. Now, Arti, we have to experience Arti. Yes, you have to experience, go out, suffer, then come to God, then Artharti, earn a little more, and then look at your neighbor and say, he earns more than me, I must earn more, and lose your peace, health, sleep. Then finally, when your hair is grey, you realize, what have I been doing with my life? Swami told me when I was a 15-year-old boy. He taught me about KATHOPANISHAD and Nachiketa. Now I'm a 70-year-old man. Let me try now. That is why in Taittiriya Upanishad it's very beautiful when shloka comes. Kim na sadhu akavravam. Why did I not do good in my life? The person repents at the end. Kim na sadhu akavravam. Why did I not do good in my life? That regret comes to you at the end. But what is the use? Time is over. So if that purva tapa comes now, instead of having a paschatapa later, it will do a lot good. If that jignasa comes now and not at the end of the life, then it will do a lot good to you now. So the idea of reading Upanishads is to create that jignasa in you, to create this idea that there is beyond just eating, sleeping, procreating, freeing and dying. There is more to life. So this jignasa is what I expect to grow in you when you read Upanishad. That Nachiketa, why he rejected so many good things, which I would have jumped at it if I would have got even 1% of what Nachiketa was being offered. I would have immediately swapped it for even this Upanishad class. But look at this Nachiketa, fool of a fool. doesn't understand. Like that, people will think. Such people are called Swayam Dira Panditam Manyamana. They are the ones who think we know. So all these are temporary. This is what next shlokas will tell us. Out of temporary, permanent cannot be attained. Temporary can only give temporary results. A castle of sand is as temporary as the sand itself. Therefore, trying to get permanent things out of a temporary world is not going to happen. You will get only temporary things, maybe a little longer than the other things, but ultimately all are temporary. This Nachiketa has understood by mananam. 3 nights he stood there, not for just nothing. He stood there and thought and thought and thought to himself. He has not eaten, he has not taken any rest, no drinks, nothing. Just stood and waited. So when he was waiting, what else was he doing? He was thinking. He was thinking about the ephemerality of life, of the transience of the pleasures of the world, about how impermanent are all these achievements. All this mananam Nachiketa was doing within himself. And therefore he turned into a jignasu. He is not yet turned into a jnani. He is turned into a jignasu. He reached the 3rd phase. Arthi is over, artharthi is over, jignasu is reached. So by now, this jignasa should have come to you too. Because unless you are walking along with Nachiketa on this journey, you will not enjoy the coming chapters. Only when you are walking step in step with Nachiketa, and you are thinking, your thought process matches that of Nachiketa, that is when you will enjoy the further explanations of Kathopanishad. Otherwise, you will get stuck somewhere. So try to do mananam more and more. Try for yourself, you sit down and do this mananam that, have I understood what Nachiketa understood? Do I believe in what Nachiketa believes in? Does it resonate with me? This idea, the temporariness of things and the permanence of the divinity, does it resonate with me, or am I still confused about it? I am not clear about it. If you're not clear, just sit down and watch yourself since your childhood till now, what all you thought will make you happy. And those things which made you happy then don't make you happy anymore. Those things which your parents thought would make them always happy, that doesn't make comfort. I'm not saying little pleasures are not happiness. See, anything that comes and goes is not happiness. That are pleasures. Little money, you can buy a new thing, pleasure for some time. After some time, the same thing you don't even bother about. It lies in a corner. Like children buy toys, they bother their parents, pester them, demand, and then finally get the toy. 2 days they play, 3rd day they're bored, 4th day they want new toy. We also have been changing toys ever since our childhood. So observe this. That is why you say, Anupashya yatha purve paripashya yatha pare. Think of all that has happened in our own lives in the past, because life is the best teacher. And think of what is happening in the lives of people around us. Then come to a conclusion like Nachiketa came to Sasyamiva Martya Pachyate Sasyamiva Punarajayate. We are born and we die again and again like a field of corn. So that thinking should be in you by this time. By continuously mananam on what Nachiketa is going through in life, similar thing you should have. At least imagine yourself to be in that position and observe things that have happened in your life. What gave you permanent happiness, peace? What made you suffer? Though it gave you initial temporary excitement and joy, eventually you suffered. You made a friend, the friend left you once his purpose was over. As long as you were good to him and doing things for him, he was happy. After that he left you. Who's suffering now? You are suffering. Oh, I did so much for him, I did this, I did that, I loved. Okay, all that is fine, but at the end, what did you gain? What was so exciting in the beginning only led to misery. So Vedanta teaches us how to be out of this misery. Everybody in the world wants to get out of misery. How to get out of the misery once for all is what Vedanta is about. So why Vedanta is very practical, very important, a must for every person who is on this earth, because it alone teaches us how to get rid of this misery permanently. Nothing else, no other scriptures teach us that. So Shankaracharya says, Vadantu Shastrani, Yajantu Devan, Kurvantu Karmani, Bhajantu Devataha, Atma Aikya Bodhe na Vinapi Mukti na Labhyate Brahma Satantarepi. Do as many pujas, rituals, homa, yagas, tirthyatras, seva, voluntarism, Doesn't matter. At the end of it, if you have not understood this one truth, mukti na labhyate. In 100 years of Brahma also you will not get mukti. Mukti means what? This is mukti. Getting rid of our sorrows and miseries is mukti. And being in a state of permanent eternal happiness is mukti. So that is what Vedanta teaches us. So somebody says, no, Vedanta is not for us, it's for the old people. After they made all the mistakes and there is nothing more, no more mistakes left to be made. Body doesn't allow any more mistakes. That is when they turn towards God. No, that is a wrong attitude. Start early, drive slowly, reach safely. At the last hour, you cannot rush and try to reach earlier, faster. It's not possible. You will meet with accidents. So that is why it's important that learning Vedanta should start right in the beginning of our lives. You may not understand it fully, but you will at least have the concept. When you ask somebody for the direction, they say take the straight road and then take left, but be careful, that road is a little bad road. 2-kilometer stretch is bad. After that, there is a road is good. So it means what? You have not traveled through that 2-kilometer bad stretch, but you got to know that there is a bad stretch. So you are mentally prepared. So when you learn Vedanta, you are mentally prepared to deal with life. You know there will be bad patches, there will be good patches, and you accept it that is how the road is. Can you say, I don't want to travel now because I've heard there is a bad patch? Then you'll never reach. So you learn that life is a mix of sorrows and happiness, and pleasures and pains, and successes and failures. And therefore, I have to learn how to accept this life as it is without getting affected by it. Once you accept things, you become peaceful. Till you resist, you are restless. Once you accept this is how it is, then you will become peaceful. If you don't accept why it is like this, why it's not like that, you suffer. So Vedanta teaches us how to accept things. When Father told Nachiketa, get lost, go to hell, he accepted it. That's why he could think properly. Otherwise, what he would have told, if he was an angry child gone to Yama, he would have told, first boon, kill my father first. Second boon, put him in the worst of the hell that you ever know. If necessary, create another hell lower than the lowest. He might, but he accepted. His father said, fine, I will see the opportunity in it and how I can improve. Not only he thought well, he took care of his father's welfare, took care of the world welfare, and found out his own self. Jagathataya Atmana Mokshatam. So that is Nachiketa. That is why I took KATHOPANISHAD first, though it is not the first in the series of the Upanishad. Before that comes Ishavasyopanishad and Kenopanishad. Then comes KATHOPANISHAD. But we skipped the queue, jumped, and we said we'll straight go to KATHOPANISHAD because here is where there is a Nachiketa. And how old is he? Just as old as you are. Teenage, pre-teens in fact. So you should be able to relate to that Nachiketa. Nachiketa was one boy, one girl of this age is Nachiketa. And these kind of ideas are there in Nachiketa's head. Why it doesn't occur to me? So that is why mananam, I keep saying. Go and sit and think and think and think. You will get insights from within. You will get new ideas. Your new understanding will come from within. And each person's understanding is their own. There cannot be a common understanding. Everybody looks at the world with their own vision. Each person's world is different from the other person's world. Keep working on that. It's very important. So yesterday we heard Shreyascha Preyascha Manushya Meta. In this world, Shreya and Preya, two things will come in front of Manushya. And a Dhira. Dhira means the one who has a Dhi, Buddhi. What kind of Buddhi? Not Rajas Buddhi, not Tamas Buddhi, Sattva Buddhi. A discriminating mind he has. He understands dharma, dharme, karya, karye, bhaya, abhaye, moksham cha, bandham cha, ya vetti, sa buddhi, partha sattviki. It understands the difference between good, bad, right, wrong, to do and not to do. It understands which will bind us, which will liberate us. With that idea, this person discriminates because he knows this is what is going to give ultimate happiness. Whereas the other people who think yoga kshema, for immediate gratification of their desires and senses, they just jump into choosing the prayas, pleasant. And they come out a saint. No, they come out a scoundrel, says Vivekananda. After medication, they come out scoundrels. After meditation, you come out a saint. And he said, he praised Nachiketa, I have tempted you with all kinds of things, Nachiketa. I tested you first before accepting you. and you have done well, because these are the things for various people, it has cause of their ruin, they drowned in it. Whereas you crossed over because you rejected them all, considering they're all temporary. I don't want any of these things, and man is never satisfied with whatever is given to man. Therefore, I don't want it. Then he also explains in the fourth shloka that these two are very opposite in nature, like heat and cold. You can't get confused. The confusion comes because you have attachment. Tell a mother your son is stupid, mother knows, but she will not accept. Why? Because she is my child, there is attachment. That Dhritarashtra could not accept that Duryodhana is bad. Attachment. Because of attachment, this difference we are unable to understand. We mix up Preya for Shreya, Shreya for Preya. That is the reason why he says these are so opposite to each other, you can't make a mistake. If you have a little discriminating mind, you should be able to figure it out. But then the plight of the world is, Krishna says, Manushyanam sahastreshu kaschit yatati siddhaye yatatam api siddhanam kaschit mam vetti tattvataha. Out of thousands of people on this earth, some people only put effort on this path. And out of those who put efforts on this path, yatatam api siddhanam kaschit mam vetti tattvataha. Some one person comes to know about me. Ultimately, me means Krishna is telling I am the ultimate supreme truth. Considering that somebody comes to know about this ultimate truth out of thousands who put effort, out of thousands who don't even put effort. So the real is like filters down to very, very minimal number of people. That is this privileged knowledge. It's only for those who have really abandoned everything else, and there is one and only pursuit of life is to understand this, to experience this. And that doesn't mean that you will not experience anything else. You will experience everything else also, but with a new, fresh attitude, with a new, fresh perspective, where you won't get attached to anything, but you will be having everything around you. You will not be attached to everything. That is how you can live the life. So that is how he is telling, this is vidya and that is avidya. Vidya is this true knowledge. Everything else is avidya. Science, maths, physics, chemistry, everything is avidya, because it won't stay long. It will go with you. But this knowledge will come along with you and take you to the right place, right understanding of things. You be sharp, because this knowledge, na samparaya patibhati balam. For children, this knowledge is not there for children. What children? Spiritual children, in the sense they don't have the maturity. They keep making the same mistake again and again and again. Have you thought about your life? How you make the same mistakes again and again? Despite knowing is the mistake I made last time also, you go and make the same mistake again. That is why he said, pramadyantam vittamohena mudham. Because of some attachment, some desire, we make the same mistake again and again, pramadyantam. For those people, this path is not there. So look at your own life and decide, I am loko nasti paravitimani. Nothing else exists. What happens to them? Puna vashapa padyate me. They keep coming back again and again and again into the control of yama. It means they will be born, they will die, they will be born, they will die. It will go on and on forever. For them, there is no end. Same class they will study. Every year they will fail, again come back to the same class. Again fail, again come back to the same class. Learn to find that God within and be free. Be free even of this attachment. Like Ramakrishna Paramsa was so attached to Mother Kali, not able to give up the attachment. Then Totapuri landed up over there. This Totapuri told this Ramakrishna, what is this mother, like a small child holding the sari, pallu of the sari, you are always running behind mother. You have grown up. Grow up in spirituality. I will teach you Advaita Vedanta, where you are one with the divine. Is it so? I will ask mother and come whether I can learn or not. Nothing can be done about you. Anyway, he went back and he asked the mother. Mother said, I have only sent that man to your ashram. He is here to teach and learn. So he went back and said, my mother is happy, she has permitted me. So imagine, mother is ready to permit him that he should develop detachment from the mother only. Look at the, so to say, broad-mindedness of wisdom of the mother. She allows him to learn how to get rid of her. And then he goes and learns with Totapuri, and then every time he closes his eyes and he tells, now focus on the middle of your eyebrow, Agni Chakra, and think that you are Brahman. And he tries and immediately mother appears in his mind. Ma, 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 he started crying like a baby. And Totapuri says, stop going behind the name and form. These are not real. Again go back and think, I am Brahman, no name, Nirakara, Nirguna. Again tries, mother appears. Then Totapuri says, this is not going anywhere. You're going in circles. Dandampya mana paryanti muda. You're going round and round. So do one thing, next time when mother comes, take a sword and cut her into two. Destroy her. Then he asked very innocently, okay, since I have accepted you as a guru, I will do whatever you say. But where do I get the sword from? He says, get the sword from the same mind from where the mother is coming. Both are the creation of your mind only. That mother is the creation of mind, the sword also is the creation of mind. So next time in the meditation, he brings out a sword out of his own mind, imagines that he has destroyed the mother and mother disappears, and then he goes into the ultimate experience of oneness, where this last layer of form and name also disappears. Devotion to a name and a form is also good, but it can take you only so far. It will not help you become one. It will not allow you. Therefore, when I tell you now, get rid of any attachment to name and form, I'm very sure about it, I'm very clear about it. So what happened afterwards, you may ask? Did he continue to worship mother or he left mother? He continued to worship mother with greater understanding and clarity. Now he worshipped mother not as a Devi who incarnated at some point in time and who killed some asuras and things like that. Now he worshipped the mother as the very Parabrahmani. She is the Brahman herself, incarnated in this form. So next time Totapuri comes, even Totapuri's understanding improves because of Ramakrishna. He says, Ramakrishna Paramsa got into Samadhi within a second. I took 40 years to practice this. How did it happen? Because his heart had become pure due to bhakti of mother. He had no doership. He was just an instrument of mother, he always thought. So that bhakti already purified his mind. Seva purified his mind. That is what has happened to you. Bhakti seva you have done, that's already purified your mind. Now it's just one last step. And that's why Totapuri comes and says, I want to have your mother's darshan. See the reverse. He says, please come. And Totapuri comes before leaving. And then Ramakrishna sings and says to Totapuri, the snake that moves and the snake which is lying, both are snakes only. The Brahman that moves in all the beings and the Brahman that is not moving. Kutastham achalam dhruvam. Both are Brahman only. Sarvatram gamachintyam cha kutastham achalam dhruvam. The one who goes everywhere and the one who stays here, both are same. Don't get confused. He teaches Totapuri. So your understanding of Brahman, things, Swami, avatars, gods, incarnations will tremendously become clearer after Vedanta. So that is the purpose of ultimately understanding Vedanta. But it is so subtle, it's so difficult, we are so attached to names and forms, it is so difficult to understand this idea. Therefore, the next shloka, 7th shloka, Shravanayapi bahubhi yo na labhyaha shrinvantopi bahavaha yam na vidyuhu ascharyo vakta kuchlo asya labdha ascharyo gyata kuchalanushishtaha. Very, very beautiful stanza, very beautiful poetry. Says, Shravanayapi bahubhi, having heard it, Shravana, having heard it, bahubhi, in many, many, many ways, from many people, yo nalabhyaha, this cannot be attained. Shruvantopi bahava, having heard it in so many ways, yamna vidyu, we have not understood it, we can't understand it, we can't get it. Ascharyo vakta, the speaker of this truth, who knows and speaks, not reads and repeats. He is Ascharyo Vakta. Wonderful is the speaker of this truth, who really knows the truth. Kushalo Asya Labdha, and the one who attains it is a very adept person, Kushala, very fit, very deserving, very adept, who attains this. Ascharyo Jnata, the knower of this truth, is amazing, is wonderful. And Kushala Nishishta, and the one who learns from the knower of this truth directly, that person is also Kushala, he's a very perfected person, who is a very fit person, who is a very deserving person. So this is the criteria to go further in Kathopanishad. What one, you have to first understand how many ever times you hear it, read it, you're not going to understand this truth. It's not to be understood or learned that way. Just because it's printed in white and black in paper, it doesn't mean that you read it and you'll get it. You will not get it. Then Ashcharya Vakta, only if the speaker of this truth is an amazing, realized being who knows this truth, is not simply reading and repeating. Read up some Einstein's theory and repeat it in the class. No. You are that truth which is being taught. Suppose I have to tell you to tell about your brother or sister, your father, mother, or even beyond. Talk about some place or some prime minister of some country. How difficult it is for you. You'll have to read up something, learn from somebody, and then come and give a speech. Suppose I tell you, tell about your own self. Do you need any effort? You don't need any effort because you know as you are. So if I tell you, just speak about yourself as you are. I am a boy. You'll definitely not get confused and say, whether I'm a boy or a girl. No, no question. You know you're a boy. You are as you are. How old are you? You're not going to get confused. I'm a 70-year-old man. No, you are in PUC. You are only a 16-year-old boy. There's no confusion about it. I'm fair, dark skin, or I'm tall or short. You have no confusion because you know yourself. So when you know yourself, that is the best way you can tell yourself to others. But if you have to tell about something that is not you, then you have to learn, then you have a perspective of your own impressions, judgments, opinions. But when you have to tell about something that is not you, that is not about you, then you have to put efforts. And when you put efforts, you may be right efforts, wrong efforts, you may have understood it rightly, wrongly, you never know. Therefore it says, Ascharya Vakta, Ascharya Jnata. The one who is the Jnata, the knower, alone can be an Ascharya Vakta, the speaker of this truth. Because he knows the truth as he knows himself. There is no confusion, there is no borrowed knowledge over here. There is no going and referring textbooks and reading and then making a speech and then telling it. Nothing. Do you need to read a textbook to know yourself? Do you need to refer to somebody else, something else to know yourself? Do you need to prepare a speech to know yourself? You can speak about yourself as it is now here. Like that, the one who has realized this truth is the jnata of this truth, the knower of this truth. Such a person alone is the vakta of this truth, the speaker of this truth. Anybody else, if he speaks about this truth who doesn't know it, shravanayapi bahubhir yona labhyaha. Even if you hear from those people as many times you want to hear, shunvantopi, it's not going to be understood by you, it's not going to be attained by you. This impact will not be the same as the one who knows and speaks from his own knowledge, own experience. Therefore it is said, Ascharya Vakta, and then to receive that knowledge, you have to be also adept. Kushalo asya labdha, a good teacher, a bad student, knowledge won't happen. A student also has to put efforts to become a kushala, an adept in receiving this knowledge. Once said, understood. Pure-minded student, detached student, completely focused on learning. Such a student will learn it like this. Scattered mind, so many distractions, attachments, desires, and not even a focus on learning this truth. If it comes, comes. If it doesn't come, it's fine. Such a person cannot attain this truth. And Kathopanishad is a beautiful sangama, a combination of a great teacher like Yama, who knows the truth in and out. And there is Nachiketa, Kushala Asya Labdha. The receiver of this truth is Nachiketa, adept. He has taken care of all the things that can come as obstacles in this path of truth. He has taken care of all that thing. He's become absolutely one-pointed, focused, concentrated. He has rejected every other distractions of the world that can come in the way. And is now one and only, his only idea is to learn this truth from Yama. So the best of the teacher and the best of the students have come together to give the best of the knowledge here in Kathopanishad. The one who is focused, single-pointed, mind is absolutely concentrated, and is rejected all other things that can come in his way of learning. Such a person is kushala asya labdha. That's why I repeat and repeat again and again, are you Nachiketa? Have you developed a little bit of thinking like Nachiketa? Are you able to resonate with the idea of Nachiketa? If you are not, then what you will learn, even if I am the best teacher also speaks about it, nothing will go inside you. In fact, between the two, Vashishta Gita, yes, he tells to Rama, when Vashishta is teaching, he says, between the Guru and Shishya, the more important is the Shishya. It is the discerning mind of the Shishya that gets him the knowledge. Even if the Guru is a little feeble, Guru is not so perfect, if the Shishya is perfect, he will still attain the knowledge, Vashishta tells to Rama. So between the Guru and Shishya, Ashtarya Vakta and Kushla Labdha is more important than Ashtarya Vakta also. That is the seriousness of being a student.